There we go. Let's do it. All right. I have Ashely here with me today, and we are going to have an amazing conversation that I am actually really freaking stoked about. We're going to talk about her journey with her dog, Miko, and how her anxiety impacted like his training and his behavior, and how that's so connected, but also how she resolved it through some really, really cool, interesting methods. And we're going to teach you guys kind of how to do that yourself. So, hey, Ashely, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Liz. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm like literally, I've been looking forward to this conversation like all week. I'm so excited. So first, tell me about like one, who's Miko, and just kind of your journey with his training and your anxiety connecting to that.
Yeah. Miko is my rescue dog. He may pop up in a second. He's not too far away.
It'd be amazing.
Um, but let's see, he's sleeping right now. Come here, Papa. Come, come here. Come here. You say hi. I don't know if you can see his big old head.
There.
Say hi, Papa. So this is Miko, and he won't look at the camera probably because he thinks maybe Mama has a treat. Come over here. Say hey. So my guess is clearly he's some sort of a bully breed. But he followed my sister home one day, and we were trying to rehome him, and this ended up being his home. But in that process of rehoming, he was on the street for, we're not entirely sure how long, but very clearly he had some anxiety issues, some aggression issues with some other dogs, men, some things like that. So in the interest of rehoming him, we were also taking him to training. And so I was working with a local rescue here in Bakersfield, Boxers, Mutts, and Wigglebutts, and they have a training program that we got involved with. But we were literally the dog family that kind of got sent to the side of class because he was so reactive. And I was afraid, and just some backstory, I actually was pretty afraid of bully breeds in general. Like I have a small Yorkie poo, and that was kind of the extent of my dog experience and ownership and training. But Miko's clearly he's super special, and so I would take him to class, but he would be lunging at other dogs. He would be just not listening, and so that would get me upset. And there were many a time when I would come home from class and his throat would be all red from the prong collar. I would be crying. Like it just was like, what are we going to do to get you a family? Um, and so through that process, I learned that I actually had anxiety and my anxiety was triggering him. And so through our bonding, because he wasn't like that when we were at home, he wasn't like that with my dog, Rowan, who's a 9-pound bossy little Yorkie. And so I was finding that just getting ready to go to class and take him, I would start to feel anxious and worried and like, what if he gets away from me? What if he bites somebody? What if he hurts someone? And the trainer actually was helping me to see like, you have to relax on the leash. He's responding to you. And when you get upset, he doesn't know why, but he wants to make sure he's safe, but also make sure that you're safe. And if you calm down, if you find a way to do that, I think it's going to shift. And it totally did. And one of the things we used was a water bottle, spray bottle, which I found just watering plants one day. He like barked at the door or something, and I sprayed him, and he was like, "What?" So that I found to snap him out of it if he was, being responsive. But I teach yoga, I practice yoga. So starting to take some of what we call like life off the mat. So utilizing breath work and awareness and making sure before I went to class to take him to training, centering myself so that I had a goal in mind of what I wanted our class to look like and how I was going to respond if he started to get anxious. And it did start to shift where going to class in a more relaxed state and being conscious of if I know I've got him and I'm projecting to him, I've got you, I've got us, we're safe. And if
Yeah,
any
back to back, bro.
worst case happens, we go home. And it totally shifted and he became sort of I won't say the example dog in class. We weren't quite that good, but we didn't get sent off to the side, and people were not afraid to come to class because of us, to be perfectly honest.
It happens,
Yeah.
who knows what he went through and his mindset. But I really love how you were able to kind of accept that, for lack of better words, the problem, you know,
I was
or the
totally.
reason that he was feeling anxious. And I think
Mhm.
you made a really good point of saying that the worst case scenario is that you get sent home. And so many dog owners, I feel that when they do have a rescue dog and they have gotten this dog that has, you might not know his history, you might not know what they've been through. It is nerve wracking. It is
Mhm.
like, like you said, all these things like, oh my gosh, what if he does this? What if he does that? What if this happens? And
Mhm.
90% of the time, those worst, horrible, awful things that run through our head, they don't happen. So I
Yeah.
really love that you said to just sort of center yourself and say the worst thing that's going to happen today because I have him and I am in control is that we will be sent home.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I think that would be probably, would you say, like the number one advice for people who are kind of going through the same issue?
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, the number one thing would be to look at yourself and think about, what am I doing to contribute to this? Because I had no idea. Like when she first said that, I was like, well, of course I'm afraid. I feel responsible. Like, look at him. If he bites someone, we have a problem. Like, it's not a little nip. So it took me a second of really, kind of going home, and I journal. I talked to my sister about it and was like, she's like, yeah, I think it is you. So being honest with yourself, it's okay to be afraid or to be nervous, or like I said, my experiences with small dogs, so I didn't really know how to handle them. I had a lot to learn. So starting there and being really open to feedback, and having a trainer that doesn't just take you through the motions, but really connects with you and your animal and looks for the feedback and the differences of, how you both respond to the training.
Not just
Um,
canine behavior, but human behavior as well. Yeah.
yeah, because we impact it. So I'd say that'd be the first thing. But yeah, the second is just mentally preparing and visualizing how you want the training to go, and then your exit strategy if it doesn't work out the way that you want it, be it because you're having an off day. Like, there were some days when work was really stressful that week and class was on a Saturday. If I wasn't in a good space, we couldn't go to class that day because I wasn't going to be able to just push through and we need to get training done. Like, if I can't be present with him, we can't go. It's the same on a walk. Like, if I'm not physically there with him and mentally, so the same with others. I would say be conscious of your state when you're going out with your animal, no matter where it may be.
I like that. I like that a lot. And so one thing you mentioned to me before is, doing that kind of being able to look at yourself. And, one thing I want to mention is that if you are like the problem, for lack of better words, if it is that, that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean
No.
that you are a bad dog owner. It doesn't
Or
mean
that you
that
can't keep
you're
them.
to blame. There's no guilt or shame that should be felt. So for anyone watching this that's having that issue and kind of having to look inward
Mhm.
and saying, yeah, maybe, my anxiety is the issue. You're not doing anything wrong. Everybody does it. Every new dog owner. Life is
Mhm.
kind of scary sometimes, But one thing that you mentioned to me, so I just wanted to say that, get that out of the way and let people know
Right.
that, kind of confirmation for them. And you mentioned that how you got your kind of anxiety under control with it was practicing yoga. And I thought that was a really interesting thing because yoga, for me as someone who I didn't practice it until probably only like 2 years ago, I never saw it as a anxiety reducer. I more so saw
Mhm.
it as like a workout. So tell me more about the other benefits of yoga and how yoga helped you with your anxiety to kind of help with your relationship with Miko.
Yeah. So, like I said, I teach yoga, and definitely, I mean, there's the mobility and the flexibility and all of those. Like, that's a or workout. But for me, it's a tool for me to get in touch with myself and how I'm feeling. So it gives me a space to be able to sort of, like, I'm actually sitting on my mat right now, but to carve out a space for myself that is sort of a boundary where I can just be, and I can breathe. I can be still if I want to. I can move. It can be strenuous. It can be restorative and relaxing. But whatever the case, it's a physical space that I could sit and just be with myself and breathe, and then start to really either literally move through or process through what I was thinking or feeling. And I have, I mean, I think all of us, life is, like you said, life is hard. Sometimes our life is hectic. And in my general day to day life, I wasn't stopping to just be reflective and to give myself space. And so when I'm teaching classes, but also when I'm practicing, I'm constantly asking myself, how do I feel? What do I need right now? What do I want to feel? And moving through that. So for some, sometimes it's journaling as well, but it just gives me a quiet space to really be with my thoughts and to see, I was able to see myself more clearly and really process through. And so it just, whether it be on the mat or off, if yoga isn't your thing, creating a space for you where you can sit still and be and ask yourself those things. How do I feel right now? What do I need? And then that, because I was able to see, like, I'm totally anxious before I go to class. I'm afraid to take him on a walk. When I first brought him home, my neighbors would disappear when we went outside. Like, he would start barking and I would look at him to try to calm him. And I was totally doing things that I would imagine most novice dog owners do, like talk to him, like, it's okay, getting in his face, and he's all over the place. And then I would look up and my neighbors would be gone because, like, back in their homes. So yeah, like, recognizing that I was afraid, and I don't want to be afraid. I don't want him to be afraid. So how can I shift and move through that? If I'm projecting that everything is okay, he understands through my energy, through the leash, it's okay. And he, totally different animal overnight. Like,
Yeah. I love how you said the energy through the leash. Like it's almost like a leash is a communication, like a telephone wire,
uh-huh,
going right through it.
absolutely.
And some of the best dog trainers I worked with, they've said the exact same thing. That is a
Mhm.
communication tool. When I had my boxer personally, quick story, I would tighten the leash anytime
Yeah,
because she started to become leash aggressive. And it was, that tightening of the leash. And if you're walking with a friend and they suddenly stop you, you go, what's
what?
wrong?
Right.
Why should I
What's
be
happening?
and, dogs immediately go into their loyal beings and they love us,
Yeah,
connect with us. And so they go into protection mode, or they go fight or flight. They might start running away, get scared, things like that. So, yes, I
right.
love that carving out this space, a physical space for you to,
Mhm.
whether it's the couch
Breathe,
or
right.
anything. So I
Mhm.
really, really like that. And so as we started talking, you and I just kind of chatting before the podcast, you mentioned you teach yoga, but also that you have a company. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so my sister and I have a company called the Essential Healing Collective, and it's really all about empowerment, creating community around utilizing resources and knowing what your resources are for your own wellness. I'm really passionate about women's wellness and support and community, but in general, just looking at a lot of different ways to support and create wellness. So there's yoga, there's I also a Reiki practitioner, and do energy work, card readings, those kind of things. But we also work a lot with holistic health, so essential oils. We work also, Crystal does, so my sister does a lot more of the consultation where working with your medical doctors or medical care providers. It really just depends on what the client's goals are, but empowerment, because there's so many times, and on our website has a little bit more of our individual stories, but for our own health and wellness, working with doctors and different practitioners where we just felt overwhelmed and like we were at the mercy of whatever we were being told, whatever we were being prescribed was the only option.
Oh,
And I mean, cancer diagnosis, different things that were, it wasn't just I've got allergies or a cold, like this is life or death. And we have to figure out what we want versus is there, are there any other options to what we're being told? And so that's kind of how the company started and our own journeys. but
And so
just
now you
giving people
provide those
resources.
options. Yeah, those options.
Yeah, to explore. So, depending on what the client is wanting will depend on the direction that we go, but there's so many resources out there. And so we just want to empower folks to be able to explore those confidently and work with whomever, whether it be, a Western medical doctor or acupuncturist or whatever the case may be,
For both.
and incorporating yoga and different things in there if that fits with their wellness goals.
That's awesome. That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so one last question for anyone, listening right now and they're feeling this, they're kind of like, "Oh my gosh, I want to try and use yoga as, not just a workout or even just like a completely new person who has never done yoga before." What are some tips that you would tell them to get started? How can they get started with using it for all of those benefits, including the athletic ones?
Yeah, yeah. I think, things are, particularly we're in California, a lot of things are opening back up. So you can find a studio, but because of COVID, I think there's a ton of really solid resources online as well, or virtual. I do virtual classes with clients too. But finding a place or space that resonates with you, where you feel comfortable, because yoga really is for everybody. And that was even one of my own challenges, walking into studios and not seeing anyone who looked like me, who was shaped like me. And I, even with that, when I first moved to Bakersfield, feeling really stressed and kind of out of my element, and finding a yoga studio where I could get on my mat and breathe and have a teacher guide me through and really see me. And so I think finding a space where you feel comfortable and you feel seen to be who you are, and just starting where you're at. So there's all different types of yoga. So if you are, I work with a lot of athletes too who really do just use yoga to improve their mobility and flexibility. So you can do that, and it does help prevent injury. But there's also, there's chair yoga. So if you have any mobility challenges, or if you've had an injury, whatever the case may be, some of my older clients prefer, they're utilizing more props. There's ways to modify and adjust for any person. So if a lot of people that I talk with, that's the first barrier of, I just don't feel like it's for me because, fill in the blank, whatever that may be. If you're interested, it's for you, and there are resources to make it that way. So that'd be the first thing. So just kind of jumping over that hurdle of, if you're interested, there's space for you. The next thing would be, I think, just being open, because it is a lot more than stretching. And for minds, or for people, personalities that are like really fast and go go go, it's hard to slow down. It's hard to be with your thoughts and your feelings, and those slower movements, or even some of the more challenging athletic flows. There's just something magical that happens in that space that gets you a little bit deeper inside of yourself, and just being okay with that process and open to it. I think that would be the next thing. The other, if you're intimidated by going into a studio, then trying something online and knowing that it doesn't have to be a 90-minute intense hot yoga flow where you're dripping sweat and you feel like you're dying afterwards. Yoga can be just breathing and sitting still, like you said, on the couch for 5 minutes and just taking a minute for yourself. There's 8 different limbs of yoga. There's a lot of different things beyond just stretching. So just find a space or an online resource, or hit me up online, and I'm happy to be helpful.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I can say from personal experience, it was, it's a lot of you're worried about like how am I gonna look, like there's all these people that are really good at it that have been doing it forever. And I like
Mhm.
everybody is there for themselves, and it's kind of a cool time where I learned where you can be there for yourself. You don't have to worry about anybody else.
You don't, and I think that's why I mentioned finding a studio or space that resonates with you, because I have been in some studios where it does feel very lookist and very like, well, no, I can't do a headstand there, whatever the
My
case may
first
be, like,
day.
right, like, no, yeah, or I don't feel comfortable, doing something like that, and it felt a way. So honoring how you feel and seeking out a space where you do feel welcome and comfortable. But yeah, that is one of the biggest things that I work with folks on. I did some classes for a baseball team, and they were 14 and under, and their baseball team. They're super competitive with each other, and so that was one of the biggest things we worked on, was staying on your own mat and not worrying about what so and so is doing next to you, whether they're doing it right or wrong. You come for yourself, and you get what you come for. So if you set that intention, um, some really magical things can happen on your mat.
I love how you said if you're interested, you're like you're already there. You know, it's for you.
Yeah.
It's for you. Yeah, I
Hmm.
really love that. Oh my gosh. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for just
Welcome.
helping us and or helping, people in the same situation that you were. And also just like she said, if you are interested in yoga, meditation, really just kind of knowing yourself and getting comfortable with that and being able to calm, like sit down and relax and breathe and just be still. It's so very
Hmm.
healthy. I can personally say I used to be a go 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 person. I thought yoga was like for sissies, and like like weirdos and stuff.
Yeah.
But I am now one of those weirdos that that can sit in a thing of grass in the park and just sit
Mhm.
and be still, and life has been better.
It
Yeah.
is, it's a life off the mat kind of thing. So even with Miko, where I was saying, the practice that I did on, or that I do on my yoga mat, being able to take that off. So there's even, I mean, post COVID, going back out and being around a lot of people was really challenging for me. And so, there are times definitely where I'm in a park or I'm in a space where I'm just breathing and centering and doing some of the things I do on the mat. But I find myself doing that even like in a restaurant where there's just a lot of people and I'm a little bit overwhelmed. And so it's a skill set that you can take anywhere and carve out space, even if you're not alone and it's not perfectly quiet around you.
I love
And that's helped me with my stress and anxiety and being present for myself, but also for my dog.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And if you are interested and you're kind of wondering where should I go, what should I do? Essential Healing Collective with Ashley and her sister. I can personally say they are amazing
Thank
and
you.
so incredible, and they just will make you feel so good and will get you started. They'll definitely help you out. So if you are interested, this
Absolutely.
is your resource, and go ahead and get started. Make a better bond for yourself and your dog. And thanks for watching.
Okay, sure.